Welcome to The Burnout Show, a weekly conversation with special guests who generously share their burnout stories with us. We also chat with health and wellness experts on how to best navigate burnout when you're in the thick of it, as well as how to avoid it returning. And now, here's your host, Jess Jones.
Welcome back to The Burnout Show. Soon you'll get to hear a lovely chat I had with Deborah and Davis. But I just wanted to jump in to say that if you are struggling and looking for some extra support with managing or avoiding burnout, the Breaking Up with Burnout mini course is available now. You'll get access to 3 modules that cover life, work, and burnout, which you can move through at your own pace. Head to the link in our show notes to find out more, or go to theburnoutclub.com/breakingupwithburnout. Now, here's my conversation with the lovely Deborah and Davis. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Burnout Show. Today's special guest is Deborah Ann Davis. Deborah, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Glad to be here.
We were just having a little bit of a chat before we started recording. You've got a wonderful looking book behind you called How to Keep Your Daughter from Slamming the Door. And we were just having a giggle as I was sharing some stories about my 5-year-old daughter and the fear that I have about the future teenage years with her. But I'm sure you're going to solve all the problems for every parent listening today.
That's my job.
Wonderful. So can you share a little bit about what you do and the books that you've written?
Well, I am a parenting coach and I am an author and I'm a former teacher. I taught high school and middle school for 27 years. And I'm also a personal trainer. So basically anything that has to do with keeping yourself healthy and happy, I dabble in it.
Fantastic. So tell me about the teaching, first of all. It's a long time to be so involved in the lives and future paths of children. How was that? And what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah. I love teaching. I loved it. I love teenagers. I love here, the high school begins in the 9th grade for most schools, not all of them. And I love 9th graders because they're a really wonderful mix of bravado and fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're the youngest people in the high school. And last year they were the oldest people in the middle school. And so they're open and wanting to learn and wanting to fit in and, experimenting with their individuality and trying not to step out of line with the other kids so that they stand out in some weird way. I mean, I just love them. I love the teenagers.
So what age is that for you guys? 9th grade? Is that 14? Yeah. Okay. Right. Wow. Oh, I can only imagine. So first of all, what drew you to teaching? What got you into it?
Well, ironically, when I left high school to go to college, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew positively I didn't want to be a teacher. And that was because my dad was a teacher and it seemed to completely lack imagination to be going into his footsteps, right?
Right, of course.
I changed my major and then I changed my major and I changed my major. I mean, I was all over the place. I was a math major and I was an archaeology major and I just kept switching and switching. And then I lost a semester due to a car accident with a drunk driver. And in that healing process, my life opened up in my head and I said, I need to teach. And I went to a teacher who had impressed me in college, a physics teacher, Professor Brem at University of Massachusetts. And I asked him if I could use his demonstrations if I became a teacher. And he said, sure. And so that was it. I had not been interested in science when I was in high school. And when I told my family I was going to become a science teacher, they were like, you? Science? Are you sure? Which is a fair reaction, seeing how many times I changed major. But, I fell into it, loved it from the get-go, and missed it 5 minutes after I left teaching.
Yeah. Wow. First of all, I want to go back to your childhood. Is there something that you wanted to be when you were growing up? You said you didn't want to be a teacher. Was there something else that you were really drawn to that was kind of a big dream or ideal for your future?
I don't remember that. I've been asked that before. I don't remember thinking, ooh, I want to be such and such when I grow up. Somehow, it wasn't taught to me, but somehow I spent my youth in the moment, not really thinking about what's coming next and what's going to happen. I mean, I didn't even know my whatever year you're supposed to be looking at colleges. I didn't even know that I was supposed to be filling out applications. And I was called into the guidance counselor's office one day and asked, so where have you applied? And I was like, well, should I be doing that? They said, yeah, sure, you should. You definitely should. So I picked up 4 brochures that were on her table. I filled them out. Got accepted to all of them because I was second in my class. But I just wasn't thinking about the future or where I was going. And I ended up at University of Massachusetts, which I loved. Yeah. And I had the car accident the second year. And that completely transformed my life. I spent 3 days after the car accident thinking I was going to live my life in a wheelchair. Mostly because I didn't understand how the body worked. I didn't know that the fact I could wiggle my toes meant that I was okay. Yeah, my body just didn't remember how to stand up after being in the hospital and intensive care and stuff for like a month.
How old were you at that point?
I was 19.
Wow.
And because I was 19, I didn't share my fears with anybody, so nobody alleviated them. But yeah. I broke both of my legs, my thumb, my nose. I was all cut up. And I lost 50 pounds in 2 weeks.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. No, it was great. I couldn't fit in my clothes anymore because I was on the unlimited eating plan at school. So I got a little big. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm like a size 6 right now. I was a size 11.
Yeah.
And I'm only 5 feet tall. So yeah, I lost 50 pounds in 2 weeks. It was great.
Yeah. So 19, to go through something that scary and that impactful, what was that like when you first got to the hospital? Do you have strong memories of what happened once you were there?
My recollection of it, because this was in the 70s, all right? So for you younger people, that means no cell phones. Some people had pagers, but you had to find a payphone in order to call back the number on your pager. And there were CB radios for people who drove trucks and things like that. Yeah. So we had our accident on a backcountry road. And the guy who hit us was so drunk, he was driving on the wrong side of the road in the grass. And we were the only 2 cars there. And he came back on the highway just in time to hit us on my side of the car. I was the passenger. So I don't remember that at all. I remember it being nighttime and raining. It was 3:00 Sunday afternoon and sunny. That was my tunnel vision protecting me. Yeah. I was in shock, so I had absolutely no pain. My tunnel vision prevented me from seeing my broken legs. So I was under the dashboard and I kept trying to boost myself up on the seat because my back was uncomfortable sitting back like that. And the next car that came over the hill after the accident had an EMT in it, emergency medical person. And she stayed with me while her car went on to find a phone so they could call for help. Well, she stayed with us. And I remember her voice going, "It's okay. Everything's going to be okay." And I found it really annoying. I was like, why are you talking that up? I had no idea what was going on. The great thing about shock is it doesn't make you wonder. I didn't wonder why I couldn't see clearly. I didn't wonder why I was under the dashboard. I had no pain. I didn't wonder why there was this voice floating over my head someplace. Yeah. It was, out of all the horrible things that could have been happening, I didn't experience any of them. So
the body and the mind, a remarkable thing.
Such an incredible machine. Yeah. And then when I got to the hospital, they fixed me up and put me on intensive care and on IV and stuff like that, and meds. So I never had any pain. I went from shock to meds. So,
yeah,
and then the first distressing thing I had was when they allowed me to see my boyfriend, who was the driver of our car. He had this huge gash on his head. I had a bandage on my head. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's under there? Because they weren't bandaging his head. So I was thinking,
what's with yours?
But I think they bandaged me like that because I was a girl.
What do you mean?
I don't know. My gas was way smaller than his.
Oh, really?
But I think it's distressing to see girls like that. And then they shaved my hair back because they thought there was a wound there because of all the blood. Yeah. But he had pulled himself across the car and was over me going, are you okay? Trying to wake me up and stuff. And so his blood had dripped all over my head.
Oh, my God.
So I had this weird haircut. There was nothing. I had a bandage over my forehead.
How confusing.
And I lost all this weight.
My gosh, that's a huge thing. I mean, it's remarkable and wonderful that you didn't have to feel the pain of what you went through, the physical pain of what you went through, but the distress, the emotional distress and the recovery and the sense of loss when you didn't know what your future looked like after must have been huge.
Losing my semester, right? Yeah. I lost the semester of school. They allowed me to take classes once I was strong enough to go to the infirmary at campus. So I lived in the infirmary at campus. Yeah. And the ambulance would take me to classes. So I kept 3 classes. And then like a week or 2 before final exams, x-rays showed that my leg had shifted and I was going to have an operation to have it reset. So I just said, I give up. And then the university has this very strict policy. If you go to school for this much time, you only get this much money back. And it gets smaller as time goes by until if you've been there a certain amount of time, you don't get any money back. So this was 2 weeks before final exams. And they reimbursed me for the entire semester.
Wow.
I know. I mean, everybody was so good to me. It was just amazing, amazing. And then the big deal, the big life-changing thing was those 3 days where I thought I wasn't going to be able to walk.
Yeah.
They had taken me down because I was strong enough to be in a wheelchair now. So that was good. And then they had taken me down to physical therapy. So I was on campus. So I was the only injured person from an accident. Everybody else was sports injuries. So they put the wheelchair behind 2 parallel bars. And I was supposed to use them like crutches to hoist myself up into a standing position. But my body had atrophied so much. I mean, 50 pounds in 2 weeks is a lot of weight for someone who's my size. Yeah. I wasn't even 100 pounds anymore. I had like 15 pounds of cast. And when I sat on the scale of my friends moving the thing and me holding my legs up in the air, I didn't even weigh 100 pounds on that. So I had lost a huge amount of weight and I was weak. And my body had not been functioning properly for a couple of months. So by the time I was trying to do the standing up thing, I could wiggle my toes and tense my thighs, but my body didn't know what to do. But in my head, I thought, oh, they missed something. And so for 3 days, I spent my quiet time obsessing over things like, how was the doctor going to tell me that I wasn't going to be able to walk? And how is he going to tell my parents? And how are my parents going to come and talk to me about it when they found out? I mean, that was all I thought about for 3 days. The 3rd day, there was a kid, a football player in an ice bath or something watching me because I was the only entertainment. And I couldn't stand up. But by this time, I was just going through the motion because I knew, my 19-year-old head, I already knew what was going to happen. So why bother? Yeah. And he said to the PT guy, why don't you stand her up and let her sit down? Maybe she'll be able to figure it out backwards. So the PT guy goes, oh, good idea. And before I knew it, he'd like grabbed me under my arms and hoisted me up to my feet. I had a cast that had a knob on it so I could bear weight on it. Yeah. So, because I had a cast on both legs still. So one cast I could bear weight on. and boom, I was standing. And everything changed. When I say the sun was brighter and the grass was greener and the sky was bluer, it's absolutely true.
Amazing.
It was mind-boggling how I saw the world after that point. It was so exciting. I thought, I'm not going to have to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. I had already planned out my suicide. I knew exactly what I was going to do, and had it all arranged, so I was going to wait until nobody would suspect I'd want to do it, and then I would do it, and write notes and all that. I had it all planned out.
Yeah.
So years later, that was always my plan. I always thought I want to have a certain quality of life, and if I can't have that, I don't want to live the other way. Even though I knew plenty of people have had wonderful lives with whatever infirmary or handicap that they have.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want that.
And
even when I got married, I didn't want that. But when I had my daughter, that all flew out the window. I was like, oh, I'll be in the wheelchair. I'm going to watch her grow up, and I'm going to see her kids, and it completely changed when I had a daughter.
Yeah. Gosh. So how many kids do you have? And how
I had one
now?
Yeah. I had 5 days of labor, so I had one.
Oh, yeah, that'd be enough to do it.
She's 31 now.
Wow, amazing.
And she's happy, which is what every mother wants for their child. So,
So you had 27 years as a teacher. What was the decision? What was the point where you said, okay, I'm done?
Around year 23 or something like that, I got Lyme disease.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have that in Australia.
Yeah,
okay. It's a tick-borne disease. It can affect all parts of your body. It acts differently with different people. For me, it was like my heart and my head. I had pain in my back the whole time, but it was my heart and my head were the ones that really got messed up. Yeah. I ended up with a cardiologist and blah, 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 blah. But I had to stop teaching, obviously. And when I was recovering, here's the thing, because it was messing with my head, I had no attention span, literally no attention span. I couldn't watch a 30-minute TV show because I couldn't follow it.
Yeah.
So I would listen to songs on the radio while my daughter was at school. And then when she came home, I'd get up and pretend I was healthy until she went into her room to do her homework, and then collapse back on the couch again. But while I was listening to these songs, I don't know, stories kept popping into my head. And when I got stronger, I started writing them down.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. And when I went back to teaching, I started writing during the summers. And the point at which I stopped teaching was when I realized I actually had 2 manuscripts.
Wow.
Ooh, I'm going to be a writer.
Yeah.
So it wasn't because I disliked teaching. I loved what I was doing. I loved my kids.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, that following school year, I would have been completely miserable because of the way they structured it. The classes I would have been teaching would have been designed specifically to teach to the standardized test.
Okay.
Not even the college required sciences. It was a class just for the standardized test. Yeah.
Yeah, not for you.
So, I'm an old school teacher. Our whole thing was trying to impress the wow factor on your kids.
Yeah.
So that was losing that. And I didn't even know that was happening. That was a decision they made over the summer, which I had already resigned.
Yeah.
When I found out what they were doing, I was thinking, woo, that was in the nick of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect.
So I kind of jumped into writing books, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So
yeah. Well, you seem to have done a pretty good job.
Those were the 2 books, Fairly Safe and Fairly Certain. They're YA novels. I write humorous suspense with surprise endings.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So in that time that you were teaching, what do you think the biggest lesson you learnt was about young people?
Every single kid wants to be admired and accepted. I don't care who they are, what's going on with them. That's what they want. Every single kid starts the school year going, this year's going to be different than last year. Every single kid has hope until enough things happen that hope gets squashed. And if you can meet them where they are, you can restore their hope and you can help them see themselves the way you see them. These wonderful growing things.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that when I first started teaching. I was barely 22. And I was 22. I was thinking it was like 21, 22. I was in there someplace.
Yeah.
I thought, because people always refer to like good kids and bad kids, and and so I thought that was real, but it's not real. You have kids who have good situations and you have kids who have difficult situations. They're all kids.
Yeah.
That's what I learned in my years of teaching.
Amazing. What are you most excited about in your life right now?
I am in the process of writing a course, which does not have a name.
Yeah.
The modules have names, but it's going to get filmed in October, so it should be ready hopefully by November. I really haven't done this process before, so I don't know for sure. But I'm very excited about this course. It's for parents of teenagers and to help them with conversations and attitudes and regaining parental power if they've lost it along the way, and self-care. I mean, just the whole thing. I have one module called When You Ain't Happy, Ain't Nobody Happy.
Yeah. Love it. So when you are working with parents, what do you think is the biggest struggle for them and parenting? Like, is it a communication thing? Is it we don't understand each other, or why can't they just be X, Y, Z? What do you think the biggest challenge is for parents of teenagers?
I think that communication is the biggest challenge. And what I have discovered, I held this retreat for moms and teenage daughters a couple of years ago, and before all the problems hit the planet. And what I had them do was take this personality quiz. So the mothers took it and the daughters took it. And then I had them take it a second time, and the daughters pretended they were the moms and the moms pretended they were the daughters. Yeah. So the moms got...
That would have been interesting.
It was. The moms got the kids right. They all got the same thing that the kid had come up with for themselves, right? The kids all assigned the moms their own personality.
Wow.
So for the relationships, this is what we were talking about when we were chatting. This is what I was alluding to. For the relationships that are kind of smooth going, they had the same personality type. For the relationships that were contentious and banging heads, they had a different personality type from their mother, but they thought the mother would be acting and reacting the way the child would, because the child's looking at the world through their own lens. When the mother would say or do something that was unexpected, the child feels like their feet are being kicked out from under them, and they don't understand what's going on. And they think, oh, my mother doesn't get me, which later translates into, if my mother doesn't get me, who do I talk to about this problem? And they're over in the side of that room mulling over this problem, and you go over to them and they say, walk the dog, and they blow up at you. Yeah. And he's sitting there going, well, where did that come from? Yeah. It came from 5 months ago when you didn't answer a question the way she expected you to. But here's the point. If you take these personality quizzes, like I'm a teacher, so on my website I have one called the Learning Styles Inventory, which is about how you learn, which is ultimately the most important thing to understand, because how you learn is how you take in information and how you process information and how you do relationships. So if I was working with people who had different personality types, then you identify the personality types, and then you look up, how do you bridge that gap? So you say, well, if I have X personality type and my daughter has Y personality type, when I say ABC, she hears LMNOPQRST, right?
Yeah.
So if you know what her personality type is, then you can learn what you say so she hears ABC.
Yeah.
And for teenagers and some middle schoolers, if you explain this to them, they're more receptive to sitting back and saying, well, wait, what's going on here when there's a conflict?
So even that in itself is powerful.
It's very powerful. It's probably the most surprisingly easy thing to correct in a contentious relationship.
Yeah, for sure. Oof, amazing. It would be quite, I guess, rewarding and just seeing the people that would come out of that retreat as opposed to the people that went in there, and those relationships change and those dynamics change. It must be incredible to see that change.
And for them to feel closer to each other, that's what is so heartwarming.
Huge. Yeah. Oh, amazing work you get to do. What's something that you're most grateful for right now?
The two things I'm most grateful for are my family and my life. I love my life and I love my family. You know, I have a magnificent daughter and the most incredible husband. And I'm a happy, upbeat person. I mean, I work at it. There's things that happen to people, you know, aging parents, COVID, the whole 9 yards. But I'm an upbeat person. And when circumstances start to wear the edges of my upbeatedness, then I attack that and I go after it and I make sure that I preserve it and I take care of my happiness. Because if you don't, it will get knocked out from under you. Yeah,
absolutely. So you've shared two pretty life-changing, impactful experiences that you've had in your life through the accident, and then, you know, having Lyme disease as well and having to take a step back from everything that you knew and you loved doing. So what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone listening today who's either moving through a challenge themselves or has been faced with something they can't even imagine getting through and seeing the other side?
As self-serving as this is going to sound, they should get my book, How to Get Your Happy On. It's free. Just go to my website, DeborahAnnDavis.com. You can get a free copy of that book. That's my way of giving back to the world.
Wonderful.
It is not an inspirational book. It is how to physically change the chemistry in your body. So if you are overwhelmed, then there are little things that you can do to change the chemical composition in your body in terms of making your body produce happy hormones, even if you're not feeling happy. And this is a physiological response. For example, and I've shared this before, but there's a thing I call the fake smile. When you smile, the muscles in your face trigger these nerves that go to your brain, that trigger these chemicals that go to your gut, that trigger these chemicals. They make your happy hormones, right? Well, if you fake smile, if you just go like that and just fake it, it turns out your body can't tell the difference. And it creates these happy hormones anyway. So every now and then I might be mad at somebody or upset about something or got some bad news or something like that. And I'll be sitting there wallowing in it and then thinking, okay, enough is enough. How do I get out of it? And so I just start grinning, just like one grin right after another. Just grin and stop and grin and stop and grin and stop and grin and stop. And then all of a sudden I'm laughing at myself. And what I've done is interrupt that flow, that negative spiral. Now, I will say this is very, very, very important for anybody who wants to try this. you have to tell your family, because if you start grinning at them in the middle of stress, they're going to think that you're going
You're
off
crazy.
Oh, something's wrong with mommy.
Just go jump in the wardrobe for a moment and take 5 minutes to fake smile. Yep, away from people.
Right. Or tell them ahead of time and then fake smile right in front of them, because I'll tell you this, for your
You'll
kids,
probably make them do the same.
well, you're modeling for them.
Yeah.
I don't like this downward spiral, and I'm stopping it. They can see right then where you're saying, woo, that got out of hand. I'm putting a halt to it. Wouldn't it be great if they learned to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
I
powerful.
love that. That sure is. Yeah. What a great tip. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time and wisdom today. I do feel like we could have spent another hour talking, especially about, the parenting side of things. I can only imagine the wisdom and knowledge you've collected over the years in working with teenagers. So thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us. If you're suffering from burnout or want some tips on how to avoid it, join our Facebook group, the Burnout Club Community. If you've gotten something out of today's episode, we'd love your review. Simply click the link in the show notes to share your thoughts. Until next time, go gently.